Zombie Sentry, like most of the heroes and villains of his world, came face to face with a deadly alien disease that turned them into undead monsters. He made his first appearance in the pages of Ultimate Fantastic Four number 22 back in 2005. Now, unlike most of the zombies we have talked about who come from Earth 2149, Zombie Sentry actually comes from Earth 91126, which is also called Earth Z. This can get a little confusing considering the whole thing is basically one big paradox between multiple dimensions, but I think the best way to describe this whole beginning is to describe the ending, which I guess is also the beginning? Okay, let's go with the beginning. So the story all begins with our groovy dude Ash Williams from the Evil Dead movies making his way through the afterlife with a group of people. Being confronted by an angel who asked the man to turn in his chainsaw, homie Ash opted to keep his weapons, where he noticed the zombie sentry snacking on a group of dearly departed at the gates of heaven. Ash went to use his boomstick to stop the super cannibal, only for it to have no effect, where Sentry then smacked the guys so hard that it opened up a portal, sending Ash to another dimension. This dimension just so happened to be the iconic Earth 2149. Knowing Zombie Goldilocks was hot on his tail, Ash made his way to the Avengers of this Earth, where he tried to warn them about the coming danger. However though, things did not get off on the greatest foot, and the heroes thought the poor guy was crazy, where they had Spider-Man take him to the authorities. Upon heading back to Avengers Mansion, the gang is then intercepted by Jarvis, who told them about mysterious purple lightning that had began culminating in the middle of New York. Heading to the Quinjet and flying to the scene, the boys and girls were forced to eat a huge slice of humble pie as they realized Ash was right, for lying in a smoking crater in the middle of the city was the zombified Sentry. Colonel America then reached out to see if homie was alright, only for him to wake up and began tearing through the team like piñatas, infecting them with the virus. Immediately upon infection, the heroes too were transformed into ruthless undead, where they began devouring every human in their path. The hellish disease would then spread like wildfire throughout the city, leaving the majority of its population in ruins. Nick Fury tried to mount an assault on the undead using the remaining non-infected heroes, but the power of the alien virus proved to be too much, and the team was either killed or infected themselves. The virus would then become a global pandemic, leaving most of the heroes zombies and nearly all humans dead. After coming in contact with the Silver Surfer, the zombies would manage to defeat him, where a small group of infected would proceed to eat him. Upon consumption, this team would then inherit the Surfer's powers, which they then use to cook and eat their fellow undead friends, kill and eat Galactus, and then use his powers to rocket off to space, where they would spend the next 40 years ravaging the entire solar system of its inhabitants. After a battle back on Earth with Black Panther and a group of surviving humans, the zombies would eventually be cured of their hunger, but were then tricked into being teleported to another world. This world would be the one mentioned earlier in the video, which is Earth 91126, also called Earth Z. This dimension was very similar to the zombies' homeworld before, everyone kind of turned into demonic, rotting cannibals. Barely any difference. Seeing this as a fresh start, the boys tried to live life as heroes once again, but the travel between worlds had altered their DNA, which caused their hunger to return, where they began spreading the infection to this Earth as well. Things would eventually get even worse as this world's Hulk would get infected and began a massacre in New York City. Horrified at what was going on, this world's Illuminati then summoned the Sentry to stop the monster's rampage once and for all. Slamming the Hulk through several buildings, Sentry then channeled full Snyder Cut Superman energy, where he began unmercifully beating the snot out of the zombie green giant. In fact, he beat the dude so hard that he reverted back to Bruce Banner. Sentry and Thanos are some savages, boys, If you are that strong that you could beat the Green out of the Hulk, you are absolutely worthy of Chad status. Upon becoming human again, Bruce would then put on his best sympathetic performance, where he told Sentry that he could not control his actions. Having mercy on the man, the hero too made the biggest mistake ever, where he reverted back to his human form and tried to help his friend. This of course ended up being a trick, which resulted in the shocked hero getting bitten. Immediately turning, Sentry then transformed back into his super persona, where he and the Hulk then formed a cannibal bromance and decimated the remaining New York population. This unholy alliance would then cause things to follow a similar path to Earth 2149, which left over 90% of life on this world completely destroyed. The only remaining survivors would be Sentry, who led a new team of zombified Avengers. Working with Zombie Giant Man, Sentry's team would then link the brains of this world's geniuses with the technology of the Watcher's technology in an attempt to open the bridges between realities. However, their plans were soon interrupted once they got a notification of living meaty survivors from Zombie Professor X, who they had permanently grafted onto Cerebro. Man, that is just messed up. How could you do that to Patrick Stewart? Cramming into the Quinjet, Sentry and the others then followed the signal to the Savage Land, which ended up being a trick set up by Zombie Spider-Man, who had cured himself of his hunger again, along with this world's Hulk, Wolverine, and War Machine, who planned to finally end this multiversal threat. The heroes then went to full-on zombie-on-zombie war, which led to several members of the Avengers team being brutally killed. The battle would then eventually see Wolverine coming face to face with Sentry, which resulted in Logan being quickly defeated. Thinking he was down for the count, Sentry came to deliver the killing blow, only for Wolverine to strike, stabbing the super with his adamantium claws. This would prove to be quite deadly, as the hero's power of 1,000,000 exploding suns began leaking out of his body. You know, nothing too serious. Ain't nothing that a band-aid and a little peroxide can't solve. Seeing this as the power source he needed to complete his multiverse machine, Giant Man then teleported Sentry into the device, much to the horror of Sentry, who was not too thrilled about exploding. Before he could complete the process, Giant Man and the rest were intercepted by Spidey and the gang, where they tossed a container at the undead. A little shocked and confused about what this was, the evil zombies were soon terrified as they discovered this was none other than the Sandman, whose body was laden with nanites created by Tony Stark, which consumed necrotic tissue. Sandman then flooded the room with his body, killing all the zombies present and ending this threat once and for all. However, Sandman would miss one zombie, which was our boy Sentry, who was still trapped and screaming in Giant Man's multiverse machine. The entire situation would then result in Sandman coming face to face with the Watcher, who decreed that this situation was dire enough that it required him to take action. He then told Sandman that what had happened could not be undone, but it could be contained to these initial two worlds. He then used his power to teleport Sentry back in time to the beginning events of Earth 2149, where he would be discovered in the crater by Colonel America and the rest, thus creating an infinite paradoxical loop, dooming Earth 2149 and Earth 91126 to an eternity of zombie torment.